bend the knee and join me. Together, we will leave the world a better place than we found it.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Nerdy Multiverse and yet another breakdown. Today, we will be breaking down and giving our initial thoughts on episode 7 of the second season of House of the Dragon. Of course, being the prequel series to Game of Thrones that takes place during a time known as the Dance with Dragons from the books. This breakdown and the following ones as well will contain spoilers from the source material. So this is your spoiler warning now. You have been warned. And the title for episode 7 of this season is The Red Sowing. Before we get started with this episode, there are always two sides to a story, and there are two sides to this war. Team Green and Team Black. If you wish to choose your side and represent them until the very end, feel free to check out our merch made just for you to pick your side. The link is in the description down below. Anyways though, this episode begins practically where the previous one ended off, as Rhaenyra with her dragon Syrax meets with Seasmoke and his new rider Aemond Vhagar on what is likely the sandy beaches near Driftmark. Rhaenyra is here to meet with Aemond as she questions him on what he really wants and how he has acquired a dragon. But again, he did not claim Seasmoke. He was technically claimed by the dragon. The first dragon to sort of claim its own rider, rather than the rider claiming his or her dragon. We of course saw this in the previous episode when Seasmoke flew over the beaches and sought out Aemond himself, just to form that bond and gain him as his new rider specifically. She questions what Aemond's parentage and lineage is, and if he is of any royal blood. He says that his mother was just a lowborn and his father is someone of no importance. Now, obviously, the latter is not true, as his father is Corlys Velaryon. But they have never bonded or had any sort of relationship, so he just puts it to the side. They then plan to both head back to Dragonstone, as Rhaenyra plans to continue these attempts at trying to get her other dragons claimed, so that the tides of this war can turn in their favor. Cutting to Alicent as the Grand Maester tends to the cut on her arm that she got from the last episode during the riot. And if we actually take a look at this, it is in the same exact spot that Rhaenyra's cut was, when Alicent tried to stab her in season 1. We then see the failed King's Guardmen, who were Aegon's old friends, being stripped of their roles and being sent off to join the Night's Watch and serve the rest of their days at the Wall. Larys Strong is met by Jasper Wild, who informs him of reports that Seasmoke has been spotted with a rider. Both of these small council members seek to gain favor with whoever may be ruling the Seven Kingdoms. But the reliability behind these rumors and reports that were given to Jasper are very low, so Larys just has him keep it quiet. Returning to Dragonstone, where Rhaenyra's small council tends to a meeting without her once more. And again, members on her council are so quick to question her and stand against her decisions. Meanwhile, she is meeting with Mysaria once more, as they discuss getting more bastards, aka dragonseeds, to try and claim the remaining 2 dragons, Vermithor and Silverwing. Mysaria's former work in King's Landing and the amount of eyes and ears she has at her disposal, of course, gives her knowledge of possible Targaryen bastards within the city. Aemond is then met by Corlys, surprisingly, as he congratulates him on claiming the dragon and he relieves him of any ship work. His role is much more important now that he has a dragon anyways. Clearly, this helps Adam a bit mentally, as we have heard all he has ever wanted was some sort of validation from Corlys. Although he doesn't acknowledge Adam or his brother Alan for that matter as his children, he still does give him that validation here. We then cut to Harrenhal as Oscar Tully, the new Lord Paramount, after Grover Tully's death, arrives alongside the other River Lords. None of the River Lords really take a liking to Daemon, especially because he ordered Willem Blackwood and his forces to go after the Brackens, which was done in a brutal nature. But the Tullys, being the Paramount of the Riverlands, swore an oath to Viserys when he named Rhaenyra as his heir. So they will oblige as long as Willem pays for his crimes. So with a little hesitation and loads of tension, as Oscar even shuts Daemon down with the whole king thing, as he refers to him as King Consort, and standing up to him face to face. Daemon eventually ends up executing Willem Blackwood to gain the Bannermen. Now, Willem was actually never in the book, and we did hear him faintly speaking of how his nephew is the heir to House Blackwood after his death. So now that Willem is gone, that means we will be seeing Benjicott Blackwood, aka Bloody Ben, and hopefully soon. So after many episodes of not doing really much here other than having conflicting visions, Daemon has finally raised that army he was set off to do for Team Black. This entire episode really drives their strength up tenfold. And speaking of those said visions, after the events near the God's Eye, which again are constantly a hint to the battle above the God's Eye, we see Daemon in yet another vision, as he meets with his brother Viserys once more. However, it is the sickly version of him. Viserys says he never wanted the crown or the throne, and that it destroys anyone who takes it. He knows Daemon has always wanted it, so he asks him if he wants it now. However, Daemon does not answer here. But this all is leading to him realizing that he does not want the throne or the crown after all. We then cut to Aegon as he is being helped by the Grand Maester, attempting to build up his strength and his ability to walk again, which seems to be by the order of Larys Strong, as Larys helps him get back to bed and plans on having him attempted again in a few hours' time. Let's just say there will end up being a reason that Larys is trying so hard to get Aegon back on his feet. He will need as much strength as possible to sit the throne again, but also, just in case King's Landing is taken, he will need to escape. Now, this must be Aegon during this 1 hour of being awake, as he was described in the show and the book to sleep 9 hours out of every 10, due to his injuries and the milk of the poppy that clouded his mind. Corlys then meets with Alan of Hull as they prepare to gather ships around the coast of King's Landing. Alan will also now be Corlys's shipmate. He is also then informed that his brother Adam was the one to claim Sea Smoke. Corlys sort of nudges him here with an idea of Alan possibly traveling to Dragonstone to do the same himself and attempt to claim a dragon there, as they are of the same blood. But Alan declines as he is of salt and sea by his own words, which is actually a bit different than the book. As in the book, Alan did in fact attempt to claim a dragon and seek one out to claim at least. It was not Vermithor or Silverwing, however, as he actually attempted to seek out the wild dragon known as Grey Ghost, but he never found him. He then attempted to tame Sheepstealer later on, another one of the 3 wild dragons. dragons, but he was nearly set aflame. I reckon that Corlys will soon come around to accept these two as his sons. As in the book, not long after Adam had proven himself by flying sea smoke, Lord Corlys Velaryon petitioned Queen Rhaenyra Targaryen to remove the taint of bastardy from him and Alan. The queen complied and legitimized the brothers, and Adam Velaryon was named heir to Driftmark. Back in the Vale as Rhaena, Aegon III and Joffrey are escorted on their way out. As the others walk off, Rhaena runs off back to the field where she found the burnt corpses of sheep in the burnt fields. So she is seeking out the wild dragon that resides in this area. And this dragon is that of Sheepstealer. Just as I have said before, it is clear that Rhaena is in fact taking that storyline of Nettles herself. Nettles was a dragon seed from the book that claimed Sheepstealer and joined Rhaenyra in the war. I do wonder if Rhaena will end up having two dragons then, as in the book, Rhaena does eventually have a dragon hatchling known as Morning. Cutting back to Dragonstone as Rhaenyra meets with her son Jaehaerys, who is pretty upset that Rhaenyra is gathering lowborns and bastards to come forth and possibly claim all of these dragons. Doing this overshadows Jace in his eyes, and his own claim will further be questioned. Not only does he not have that silver blondish hair due to him also being a bastard himself, but if others are able to claim dragons as well, when Rhaenyra is gone, he will need to fight hard for his own claim to the throne. But in order to win this war, Rhaenyra needs to do this. Now, this is actually a lot different than the source material, as Jace was actually the one to call upon the dragon seeds to come to Dragonstone. And that passage reads as follows. It was to them that Prince Jaehaerys turned, at the urging of his fool, vowing that any man who could master a dragon would be granted lands and riches and dubbed a knight. His sons would be ennobled, his daughters wed to lords, and he himself would have the honor of fighting beside the Prince of Dragonstone against the pretender Aegon Targaryen II and his treasonous supporters. Jace is also worried that one of these lowborns or dragon seeds could end up just betraying Rhaenyra, which ultimately, if we go by the book, he does end up being right about that, as the first Battle of Tumbleton brings the two betrayers. Mysaria sends Alan of Hull to pass on a note, eventually reaching Elinda Massey, who passes the message around King's Landing that Rhaenyra is gathering bastards to Dragonstone as she seeks dragon riders, essentially raising an army of bastards that may end up being dragon riders, two of which being the most important though, and that being Ulf the White and Hugh Hammer. We also get some background behind Hugh's parentage and backstory. His mother was a Targaryen woman who fled and started a brothel. This is how Hugh was born. He is the cousin to Daemon and Viserys. So this brings us to his mother likely being Sarah Targaryen, one of Jaehaerys' daughters. We then see Alicent as she makes her way into a lake. She has run out of hope and has been stripped of any power within the Red Keep, and her voice has been ignored. And now she doesn't have much to do. In the episode explanation done by the showrunner and actors themselves, they confirmed that she was going to give up here until she saw the eagle. Back at Dragonstone once more as Rhaenyra looks over and watches as all of the dragon seeds arrive. But in retaliation to this, her dragon keepers leave, refusing to take part in this quote-unquote abomination. She addresses all of the apparent bastards here and informs them that to try and tame a dragon can also lead to death. but if they do so successfully, they will be changed for the better. First, they will go meet with Vermithor, known as the Bronze Fury, the second largest dragon in the entire world at this time, and arguably the most fierce. Rhaenyra summons Vermithor by speaking in High Valyrian, of course, and he obeys her commands even though she is not his rider. Rhaenyra then walks off and invites the first of the dragonseeds to attempt to claim this massive dragon. This goes terribly wrong for almost all of the dragonseeds here, as Vermithor starts burning and devouring a great number of these people. He also sends Ulf down to the bottom lairs. This entire event is known as the Red Sowing in the book, which is also the title of the episode. Those events were described in the book as follows. Dragons are not horses. They do not easily accept men upon their backs, and when angered or threatened, they attack. Munnkin's Truetelling tells us that 16 men lost their lives during the sowing. 3 times that number were burned or maimed. Steffan Darklyn was burned to death while attempting to mount the dragon's sea smoke. Lord Gorman Massey suffered the same fate when approaching Vermithor. A man called Silver Dennis, whose hair and eyes lent credence to his claim to be a bastard son of King Maegor the Cruel, had an arm torn off by Sheepstealer. As his sons struggled to staunch the wound, the cannibal descended on them, drove off Sheepstealer, and devoured father and sons alike. Obviously, in the show, we have not seen anyone try to claim the 3 wild dragons, as we haven't seen any of them for that matter. We have only heard of them. With all of the chaos going on, Hugh tries to escape while also helping a few of the dragonseeds out to survive, until he is met face to face with Vermithor himself. He shows no fear and stands up to the beast. Vermithor calms down and takes a liking to Hugh, and now Hugh has claimed Vermithor the Bronze Fury. Meanwhile, Ulf the White makes his way through the cave, where he ends up stepping into another dragon lair, this being that of Silverwings. Silverwing being described in the book as one of the most precious and kind dragons ever, immediately takes a liking to Ulf. So now he claims Silverwing himself. And thus, Rhaenyra's plan is a success. This passage from the source material describes these exact moments. Yet, Seasmoke, Vermithor, and Silverwing were accustomed to men intolerant of their presence. Having once been ridden, they were more accepting of new riders. Vermithor, the old king's own dragon, bent his neck to a blacksmith's bastard, a towering man called Hugh the Hammer, or Hard Hugh, whilst a pale-haired man at arms named Ulf the White for his hair, or Ulf the Sot for his drinking, mounted Silverwing, beloved of good Queen Alicent. And Seasmoke, who had once borne Laenor Velaryon, took onto his back a boy of 10 and 5, known as Adam of Hull, whose origins remain a matter of dispute amongst historians to this day. We then cut to King's Landing as Aemond meets with his small council. He is informed that his brother Daemon's dragon, Tessarion, has reached the age to take flight and enter battle. And I believe we will be seeing the two of them in the next episode. Or at least I hope so. Tessarion was also known as the Blue Queen in the book. She was described as a beautiful blue she-dragon. Her wings were a dark cobalt, while her claws, crest, and belly scales were the color of bright beaten copper. And her flames were cobalt blue in color as well. During this meeting with the small council, they can hear the city in the background in panic as they scream that there is a dragon. So Aemond heads outside and runs towards Vhagar, as Ulf the White flies over the city, taking his first ever ride on Silverwing in enemy territory. In retaliation for this, Aemond takes Vhagar and actually flies towards Dragonstone, in an attempt to take out Rhaenyra most likely, but as he approaches, he notices that he is flying straight into what was practically a trap and a fight that he cannot win. So he turns around and flees, as Rhaenyra stands there alongside her dragon, Syrax, as well as Vermithor, now mounted by Hugh Hammer, Silverwing, now ridden by Ulf the White, as well as Seasmoke with Adam of Hull, and of course, if need be, Jacaerys and Baela were also there on Dragonstone with their dragons, Vermax and Moondancer. And hopefully, Daemon joins them by next episode with his dragon, Caraxes. Rhaenyra now has 7 capable and fully grown dragons at her disposal, and it will be 8 once Sheepstealer is claimed by Rhaena. As Rhaenyra stares down her fleeing half-brother, all of the dragons roar. Such a cool moment and a beautiful shot, which is where the episode ends off. Overall, an absolutely incredible episode in my opinion. Seeing all of these new dragons was so cool, and they did such a wonderful job with their designs. They may be dangerous, but they are beautiful creatures nonetheless. The tides are turning in the favor of Team Black now, and rather fast. But anyways, I think that I would probably give this episode an easy 9 or 9.5 out of 10. And I seriously cannot wait for next week's episode, as the finale of this season is now just a week away. But yeah, that about does it for this episode, from me at least. But of course, I would like to hear your thoughts on the episode as well. So leave them down below. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed our breakdown and review on this episode, don't forget to give it a like. And with that being said, we will see you all the next time that we go through and explore the nerdy multiverse.